I worked as a research assistant after that at Harvard at Opportunity Insights, which is not a small university, it's a pretty big one. And now I'm doing a PhD in economics here at Harvard. So let's start with Uruguay. Uruguay is a very small country in South America. It's like limiting with Brazil and Argentina. And basically everything we do, or like one of the things we really like to do is like to go to this place we call the Rambla, and you just sit there, drink this drink, which is mate, which is like a form of tea, and chat with friends. So it's a country where things move slowly, a bit faster in the last few years, but like mostly stuff moves slowly. So it's pretty weird, or like not super common for people to go from Uruguay to study abroad, and even less common to try to do PhDs. So just trying to give a bit of context of who I am and how I came to be here. So let's go with the timeline. I was born in Uruguay in 1985. I did high school, primary school, high school, middle school, everything in Uruguay in the same place. I took a gap year. I went to Israel for 1 year, basically took some classes, did some activities. And after that, I started college in Uruguay. Just to give you an idea of how hard it is to apply to college in Uruguay, I went to college once. I was like, I want to study here. And they were like, yes, sure, thanks. On my last year and a month and a half after I got my degree, I worked for Professor Nestor Gandeman in Uruguay as a research assistant. After that, I worked for 2 years at Opportunity Insights from 2019 to 2021. This includes COVID. And then I started my PhD here at Harvard, which is what I'm doing. I just finished my second year. I am one presentation away with being done with classes and getting my master's. So this is the general context. Let's go a bit more in detail into each of these stages. So in high school, I went to a private school with way above average results for Uruguay. It's a very successful high school in Uruguay. Most of the students do college after, which is really uncommon for the country. About 10% of the Uruguay population did college, like has completed a 4-year college, like has a 4-year college degree. But even though it's like super fancy and like really good for Uruguay, we have no college counselors, and it's only a bit of help trying to choose a major. The main reason is that in our school system, the major is basically like you choose a major and you have to take classes on that major, and it's very hard to switch, not as in the US. So they try to help with that. But where to go for school? There are not that many options. There are only 3 universities for actually. 3 of them are private, but not way cheaper than the US. And the other one is public. But I'll get into that in a minute. In high school, we have no option to choose classes until 11th grade, where you can choose either to take the IB or not. And if you take the IB, you choose classes. The IB is the same IB. If you choose not to, you have to choose 2 out of the 6 classes you have and then basically everything else is with everyone else, which meant that there was no way of me showing anything or like trying to study harder or anything like that. I did do some self-study for math competitions, but outside of math competitions, I had only slightly above average grades, maybe like top 25th percentile of the class, but definitely not like amazing grades that would have gotten into any fancy college in the US, which again was not something I was aware existed at the time. I did some extracurriculars. I really love music. I cannot play anything. I'm just unable to. My hands and my coordination is not a thing. But I really like listening to music. I like going to concerts. So that's something I really love. Now I also like running and like doing other exercises. But at the time, this was my only thing. I did go to a bunch of math competitions. Basically, some like the Uruguayan national competition, the one with Argentina and a bunch of other countries, the South American one, Ibero-American one, and some of you may be aware of the existence of the IMO, which is like basically every country. I love the experience. I met a lot of amazing people. We had nobody preparing us for anything, which meant that we had to train ourselves. So basically we would get with this group of like 5 friends, we were 6 in total. We would go every Saturday morning to a high school, ask for like just can you give us like one class and like some markers and stuff, and then do math for 3-4 hours. And we would do this like every Saturday, which meant that when it came to like qualifying for like international competitions, the 6 of us were just like the best ones because we would train ourselves during the whole year. Now, some of you may be familiar with how math competitions work. Usually it's not self-training by a bunch of like high school students. It's like you go there every day of the week for 4 hours a week. You don't go to classes, or you go to classes and you do this after. And like you have like somebody training you who knows how to teach you. Which means that at the time we went to the actual competitions, we were just way below like everyone else because nobody had prepared us. But it still meant I made a lot of real friends. I knew a lot of people in all these competitions. I'm meeting a lot of them here in Cambridge now. But I also discovered math was not my calling. I love using math. I think it's like a super helpful tool, but it's not something that I love by itself. So it was useful for that, and it also meant that I got to that I got to discover one big option in my life, and I ended up studying economics, which uses a lot of math, but it's not math. I also did a lot of volunteering during my time in high school. The main thing, there was like a lot of like small things, but the main thing was this kind of club led by young adults. So basically, when you're like 3 to 15, you go there every weekend and there are activities for you. When you turn 16, you start organizing, and it's organized by people being 16 to 22. It was in the context of this group that I went for 1 year to Israel. And like once you start organizing, which is like 11th grade, or the equivalent we have in Uruguay, you have to go to 2-3 meetings during the week, and then the whole Saturday you spend on this place. So it's like a lot of time, but it's like very rewarding. And it was like a very big part of my life during high school. So trying to help a bit with college applications. I know a lot of you are going through that. I am not the best person to help with that. I'm just going to show you my case. But there's like a lot of like amazing people talking here who like can really tell you their stories. In my case, the whole process was like when I came back from Israel, went to to a bunch of universities. I was like, hey, I want to study here. How does this work? After that, I decided on one university, and the only exam I had to go through was to go to the registrar and be like, hey, I want to study here, pay $100, and that was it. I know that the application process can be very stressful. I did apply for PhD programs, which is similar in a lot of senses, and it's a very, very stressful period. I wish you all the best of luck here. And my experience, I hope, helps shows that even though it's super important, or like really makes your life easier in the future, and you have to do all the weird stuff I did, it is not the end of the world. Like there are ways around it. And the university I went to in Uruguay is one of the smallest universities, like very, very small. So I don't think, so if I manage to get to a PhD program at the top of place, then everyone can do it. Even if you don't go to the best university for college. Again, it's important, it's useful, makes your life easier, but it's not the end of the world. And I think I want to state it. But I did get to college. So as I was saying, in Uruguay, you don't choose, like you choose a major before you start classes. And then you go to classes with the people in your major. So basically I decided to study economics. And like every day I had like 4 classes which were like designed for the economics major. And it was very hard to switch because they were designed for the economics major. And I could use them if I wanted to take maybe accountancy or study management. But if I wanted to study physics, then the math I was doing for economics was not going to be useful. Ended up working really well for me because I love economics. And it was just like a great match from day one. But my suggestion for all of you is to explore. Like in the US, you get so many options, like so many classes that are great in the US or Canada. Like just take a bunch of random classes and like see if you like it. There are a lot of fields, a lot of like areas that I would be like, maybe I love this, maybe I would like it, but I never got the chance to try it. So if you can do it, do it. At least do it for me. Grades are important. They are one way of standing out, and it's the one I use. Basically, if you have good grades, then it's easy to be noted. But it also depends what you want to do. So, for example, if you want to do academia and you can choose between having like amazing grades or having a bunch of professors write letters that say that you are like the best researcher they've ever worked with, that the second is better. And the second main, like, so if you work with a professor and you're doing research for a professor, and that means you get like a little bit or get lower grades in classes, but this professor knows that you're good at research, and this professor is like a good researcher, then that's useful. So that's for academia. I don't know how it works for the other side of the world, but in academia, if you can choose, the second is like much more important. Basically, people say that the recommendation letters are like 90% of your application package. So grades are important and useful if you want to do a master's and stuff like that, but they are not the only useful thing. The other thing is that, and I will say it a bunch of times, try to not be too focused on all of these things, which are important, and I am very focused on all of these things, but trying to have fun and trying to enjoy what you're doing, I think it's really important, because at the end of the day, you're going to be doing this for like a lot of time. And you want to enjoy your time for like a lot of different reasons. But even if you only look at it from like I want to do the best way I can, if you're enjoying yourself, then you can work more. And you're like, the hours you work are much more, like, much better used. So that's on the trying to work. That's on the choosing major. I was not able to choose very freely, but if I could have, I would have explored a lot more. And if you're going to university where you have to choose the major before you start, like I think the UK happens to be, or is less flexible, then my suggestion would be to like try to choose the most general one, the one that's like, so for example, in my case, economics was like the hardest one, which meant that if I wanted to go from economics to something else, it was easier than the alternative. So yeah, so that would be a bit of the suggestion on this. Now, and I cannot emphasize this enough, try to find something that moves you. Try to find like something that will make you wake up every morning and be like, I actually want to study and learn about this. Like, there's a lot of like really cool stuff going on in the world. Use college to find what of that stuff is something you can actually do. So at least the way I think about it, I want to do something I enjoy, something I'm good at, and something where I can find a job that is like well paying enough to like have the life I want to have. There's so many things going on in the world that it's like, I guarantee you're going to find at least one thing that more or less goes for all three. A bit more for one, a bit more for the other. But yeah, but like, just try to find like, even if something is like paying super well and you're really good at it, if you're not enjoying it, then maybe trying to find something else. But on the other side, if it's like you're enjoying it a lot and it's great, but then you won't be able to work on it, then that's a hobby. And it's great to have hobbies. But yeah, so like, try to find something fun and good that you're enjoying and really motivates you that you can do for life. And I think that's the main reason why I did well. Like, I really, really like going to class and be like learning about economics and like opportunity cost and like how this works and like why this works this way and what are we doing and like so for me it was like super nice and super helpful. And like after that, it's super easy to just go and study. If going and study is something you enjoy, if you're like very curious about why inflation happens, or how inflation is working, you're gonna go and read about it, and then you're gonna get a good grade because you know a lot about it. But then you're also like the getting good grade is not that much extra effort. It is extra effort, but it's not as daunting as it can sound, or as it sounded to me during high school, where I would just do the bare minimum and get the appropriate grade for the amount of effort I put. So that's a bit of my advice here. Then a bit more general, how to do college well. Everyone can give you advice on this. You're gonna figure this out by yourself. But as somebody who has been studying for like I think 20 years now, I've been to classes. Ask questions. Professors love getting questions. And then these people are like experts in the field, and they're paid to teach you. Use that. Like, just to be an example, I have to teach next year as part of my stipend. I need to teach, and I'm getting money to actually go and teach students. Those students are in some indirect way paying me to teach them. It's my job to teach them. So if you're in that class, just ask questions. Like, take advantage of like all the stuff you're paying for. So questions also have the thing of like, oh, why is this? You ask a question, you get an answer. The person might be really good at answering questions. That's good. You get to experience that a bit, but you look good because you look like you're in the class. You learn about the material. You learn about something you're curious about. It's great. There's this saying, there are no stupid questions. Some questions may be stupid after you get the answer, but most times when you think a question is stupid, it's not. So just go for it. Like, and even if you have stupid questions, every once in a while it's fine. Like, just don't ask 15 questions one after the other. Like, don't be. But if you have too many questions, you can do the same thing. You can email the professors, or you can stay after class. And again, it's their jobs. Like, they are paid to teach you, and answering emails is part of their job. So email them and email them again, because they will forget to answer the emails because they're pretty busy people. So yeah, so just feel free to like use all of these resources at your disposal. And then even if you feel like you're being a nuisance or like you're bothering them, it's usually a good thing and it looks great. And then recommendation letters, you see that people like professors write about their students. She, he, whatever, asked a lot of questions, was great, very involved in the class, etc., etc. So sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Then the other one is that working with peers makes everything less serious. Like, just working with other people, even if you're like not super involved into what everyone is doing, or like you're saying at a different pace, just meeting with people to study can help. That can help everyone. Works pretty well for me. I like to distract myself every once in a while. I like to like talk about the ideas, and that's pretty good. The other thing is that there are two things. That one, you make friends this way, which is great. The other one is that everyone knows and is good at different things, so you get to like exploit your friends or like your peers' advantages, and then they get to exploit you. So you're all better off in the end. Now, some really bad decisions I made on summers. I did nothing. Like, when I didn't have classes, I would just like enjoy my free time, like maybe read a book or like go out. That's a really bad idea. In the US, people expect you to do stuff in the summers. It's how you get jobs. It's how you get to do research during the year. Like, if you're into academia, you can work in a tech company. Like, there are millions of different things. do this. Like, you get some money, which is great, and it's good to have money as like a college student, like your own money. But also you get experience, which is much more important. And summers can be boring. Like, if you spend 4 months in your room, by the end of it, you're gonna be very bored. So just do stuff. Usually you have to look for all of the things pretty early on. It's insane, but sometimes it's like even in August of the year before, people are really looking for stuff. So do it. It's important. It's useful. Don't be like me. I did do research on my last year when I was already working as a full-time research assistant. But I should have done stuff before, which is not common in Uruguay. Nobody tells you. But now that looking at it from like, I already went through this was a big mistake that I ended up not suffering, but could have. So yeah. And obviously, like, leave some free time, because it's good to recover. Like, burnout is a thing. And even if you like to think that your body can keep working 10 hours a day, every day for every day of the year, that is very likely to be wrong. At least was wrong in my case. You need to take breaks. Breaks are good. So take some breaks. Just don't overdo it. Like, over the summer, you don't need a 4-month break, but it can be good. Like, just also don't keep working. Like, you finish college one day and the next day you're doing an internship, and that's it. And then you finish the internship and you're back, because then you're just going to like not be in a good place. What happened with my life after college? So the first thing I did, this is so much text. The first thing I did was, like, I worked for Professor Nestor Gandelman, who is a professor in Uruguay. In my university, he's the chair of the department. The department has like 4 professors, 3 actually. Now they have like 5, 6. But professors, they used to have 3 when I was a student. They have a lot of instructors who teach classes really well, but they don't do research. This experience was like amazing for me. Like, we work on applied economics research. If somebody's interested, this is basically trying to answer questions using data. And this was especially applied microeconomics, and like the research I was doing was in crime. So it was basically what happens. We had all of these gas stations in Uruguay. For one law took the money out of the gas stations. Basically, you cannot pay with cash at night in Uruguay for gas. And that meant there was nothing to steal. So robberies went down. And the way you do this in economics is you cannot actually like see what happened when you took the cash away, because a lot of other things happened. So you have to compare the gas stations with something else. We compare the gas stations with other type of shops, like restaurants or like supermarkets that are open during the night. And it may sound obvious, like you take the cash away and crime goes down, but it actually, the people in the market, the gas station owners, thought that was not the case. The government was like convinced it was the case, and then we actually went to research, found the effect, found the size of the effect, and it was pretty big deal for Uruguay. And it was like insane. Like, the moment we did the first regression, like the first analysis, and we found it. So yeah, it was great to figure out that I was like, first of all, what is research? Because all of this that I just described you may not sound like economics to most of you. But it's what a lot of people in economics do, and it's like super interesting to actually do it. And I can go into more detail about it if somebody's interested. So yeah, so it was great to figure out what it was, if I liked it or not. The answer is yes, I loved it. We had a super small econ department, as I was saying. And like the chair of the department had his own office, which made sense because he had meetings. There was an admin person, he had his own office, and then there were like 1 research assistant, which was me, and 2 other professors. And with the 3 of us shared a joint office. And it was insane because I got to work with 2 full professors and learn a lot from them. Like, every time I was like, we made coffee together, and we chatted during coffee, and I got the opportunity to ask a lot of questions, and I just learned, like, every time I had something was not working, I was like, hey, how do you do this? And they would just help me. So in that sense, that's great. I also ended up being the substitute teacher or like substitute professor or instructor for a very random assortment of classes. Basically, every class that needed a substitute professor and the professor couldn't find somebody, the instructor, sorry, I would do it. So I taught monetary economics, I taught math, I taught finance, I taught econometrics, I taught everything. And it meant I had to learn a lot of stuff. Because when you learn it, it's one thing. When you teach, it's a whole different thing. And I had like practice teaching. And this type of stuff of like working for a professor, doing some teaching, is super useful to apply for research experiences in the US, which is basically like another step of applications. And like I wrote this here, but like when you're doing research and you're really invested in the question and you're doing all this data cleaning, which takes like a few weeks, and then you can finally run the analysis and you see the effects and you see that you have a paper, that's one of the best feelings you get to experience. It's like I've been thinking about how to do this for like weeks. I've been working on this data that doesn't make sense for weeks. And all of a sudden now I have results which I know are gonna be pretty stable or likely to be pretty stable, and they work and everything looks great. And like it's just, if you like research, if you like this feeling, then it's just worth all the weeks of like pain. And this is what I mean when like find something that you like, because this is just like the experience of like going through it, thinking how to do it, and then getting out the result is so rewarding that I hope you all find jobs to do that are as rewarding. Also, the work of research is the world, like the research land, to call it in some way, is a very intense environment. So it's obviously not for everyone. I'm not sure it's for me, but yeah, but it's completely worth just exploring about it. After that, I applied to research at Harvard. I applied to be a researcher or like a research assistant, which is to basically work for a researcher somewhere else. I got only one offer from Opportunity Insights, which is a very famous and very well-known research center in economics here at Harvard, with professors Raj Shetty, John Friedman, and Nathan Hendren. It was a similar area. It was much more focused on economic mobility. So I had some projects on the effect of your peers in high school. We had some COVID projects trying to estimate the recovery from COVID, and a bunch of other stuff, like the effect of like income on life expectancy, which we also replicated for Uruguay. And it was super useful because you get to see what research done at a well-known or like very well-oiled economic department look like, with very fancy professors and like super interesting people who are like working a lot and really know what they're doing. And that's like a whole different experience. And I love it, but it's like very different. But this was one place. There are a lot of different places in economics, and I've learned that there are a lot of places like this in biology and physics. I learned about this very recently. Basically, it's like you have a lot of peers, a lot of friends you can learn from, you work with, you enjoy your time with them. In the US, Canada, you get to move a lot. In every like experience that you go to college and you live in high school in one place, college in another one, then you do this pre-doc thing in another place, PhD in another place. So a lot of people get here without any friends. You get to like have life with all of these people and learn a lot. Usually they have like a very intense workload that is very loaded on like the tasks or the parts of research people don't love to do. You can more or less bargain your way into like better positions or like better projects requires a lot of luck, requires a lot of like moving around and working a bit more at the beginning. But you can try to do it. But then you're like working with a lot of times with like really good researchers you can learn a lot from. I worked with Professor Chetty for a year and a half, and like one friend who's like really, really like hardworking, and I learn from them so much. Like I compare myself as a researcher when I started this job and when I finish it, and the difference is huge. So I'm very happy with what I learned. It's also kind of insane for somebody from like Uruguay, where we are like so far from everything, that you're preparing slides that end up being presented to important people, or you prepare slides that or you prepare slides or for a presentation for like your professor in like very fancy places. Sometimes you prepare figures that end up in New York Times, and it's a pretty crazy and mind-blowing experience. You can also take classes while doing this stuff because you work in a university. Depending on the place, it's more or less encouraged. I took one class, and it was a lot of work to take one class because I already had a pretty intense workload, but it worked out pretty well. For the question of how you got in, basically you apply, and you apply to every possible place, and then you get, in economics, you usually get like a data task where they give you some data and some instructions, and you have to like analyze them and ensure that you know how to code in economics and you know some of economics. Then you have 2 interviews, and then they make you offers or not. It's a very competitive process. I applied to like 50 places and got only into one. I was coming from a very not well-known university, and my professor, and like nobody from university had done a PhD in a top 10 school in economics ever before me. So it was a bit of an extreme case, but I know people from similar scenarios who didn't get into like as top positions as I did, and they did research position that was not in Harvard, but like maybe a small university, and then they did a second one in a better known university, and then they applied to PhD programs, and they're doing super well. Basically, the better you do in college, or the better recommendation letters you can get in college, the easier it is in the future. Some of my friends did college in the US, at Harvard, for example, and they didn't do a they were not research assistants in their countries before, or in any other place except for like 3 months during a summer for a professor. So basically, instead of like spending 3 years in research before applying to a PhD, they apply directly. So yes, if you get into Harvard for college, then you're in a much better position, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible. And at the end of the day, all of these opportunities really help me learn how to do research and what I wanted for life, so it's not wasted time. If that makes sense, yes. What did we want to say? Also, a lot of friends did the same experience and discovered that they didn't like the life of a researcher, and they just left academia. And after doing one of these positions, you learn a lot about research, so you can use the position anyways. And yeah, like they're paid positions, so you can live pretty well with that money. The one bad thing about research is that you get paid much less than you would if you had the same level of preparation, but were outside of academia. How does this work? So why do I do research and why economics? I am repeating this because I don't know how to not to. But doing research is like being this kid. I don't know if you've been this kid or know somebody who was this kid, but why? And it's like to the point where like you ask why, and like it's just too deep into the question. It's like you forgot the original question. But yeah, basically you keep asking why. It's like, for example, why is inflation happening? Okay, because somebody may tell you the amount of money the their printing is too much. And it's like, okay, but why sometimes they print them and sometimes doesn't, there's no inflation? And why is inflation so hard to predict? And then you keep getting deeper. And at some point you realize that the reason why is inflation is because somebody is raising prices. But if nobody raised the prices, then maybe there was no inflation. And why is this one person raising the prices? And why are they doing it this much? And they're like super interesting questions that for example, right now you've noticed, thinking about inflation a lot. And it's like questions we don't know, which is why a lot of times economists predict one thing, then we get the opposite result. And it's like we don't know a lot of things. And they're like super important things, like how does interest rate work? They are super important questions and really, really, really hard to answer. So you get into this big question, you try to answer like a small part of the question. And when you get into the weeds, you answer and you start advancing stuff, then you're doing science. That's economics. That's research. But this process is super slow and really, really tedious. So even though it's like a fun thrill, huge thrill, like you get this feeling of like, wow, I know something nobody else in the world does because this is a new discovery. A lot of the process can be like very slow. And like you get these feelings maybe like once a month, and you get 1 month of like very intense work nobody appreciates, or like not that you don't feel people are appreciating that much. Why economics? I really like understanding causal effects. Like basically, there's a strong correlation between everything. Correlation is not causation. That's the thing. There's a strong correlation with periods with high interest rates and high inflation. And it's not that high interest rates give you high inflation, but when there's high inflation, people raise interest rates. So this type of stuff, and like trying to see what is actually causally affecting, like, is if I move lever A, do I cause an effect on people? Or is like usually when people move lever A, they're also doing something else that is causing the effect of people. So trying to understand all these things is super interesting to me. Like, for example, the schooling example is super typical. Like, we still don't know if school, like if the effect of schooling is people learn and therefore are more efficient when they work, and so that's why we pay them more. Or going to school is hard. So when you get a degree, you are showing that you were able to go to school. And that's what people are paying because they know that you can go to school. So these two explanations are like impossible to tell apart. And there's only been research showing the share of the effect of each in the past like 10, 15 years. So it's like a pretty important question and like really hard to answer. And I really like economics because you see the effect of research on people's lives super easily and super fast. And this helps motivate me because I'm a very I like to see results. I really, really like to see results. So some general comments. Basically, days only have 24 hours. And like you need to choose what to do with these 24 hours. Hopefully sleeping at least 7 or 8. I've come to discover that if you sleep much less than that for like weeks because you have to finish stuff, you get crampy and you get sad and life isn't as beautiful. So try not to do that too long. It's not as productive as you think it is, at least for me. I still do it, but not great. So I think the main thing, and this is something that blew my mind when I found out, is that don't do things you don't enjoy. Like if you're doing something that you don't enjoy and it doesn't help you or others, then why doing it? So it's obviously hard to know what's useful and what's not. Others can help you get to realize it with time, but try to only do stuff that is helping you in the future, you enjoy doing it now, or it's helping others in the future or now. Is like a good rule of thumb. Or like more helpful than the other use you could give to your time. You don't need to be optimizing all the time, but that is like a bit. And also, life is random. A lot of times you do everything right. Like literally you did everything. You write like the best letter. You apply to everything. You're doing your best. And then stuff doesn't work out. And it's fine. A lot of times it's the opposite. A lot of times you don't deserve anything. You really didn't try. And you got lucky. I can count the number of times that happened to me. I can count the number of times I think I did everything right and then things went really wrong. But you just have to keep trying, keep giving it your best. And if you try enough times, then at some point things will work out. I applied to 50 video positions coming from Uruguay, and only one gave me the job after like weeks and weeks of applying. And that job changed my life. So yeah, so just keep trying and trying more. And that's usually how things work. If you try your best and you try enough, then your things are likely to work out. A lot of times things won't. So just readapting is useful. And the most like the last one is like have fun. And really, really try to have fun. Like it's good to do with burnout, as somebody who's like burnout or was burnout up to like last week. There's only so much effort you can do before you're too tired to keep going, before you like feel like you're stuck or like life is not moving forward. So if you're enjoying what you're doing, you can push it for longer, which is great for work. If you're actually enjoying the work, but also taking like pauses is pretty good. I really like this one. If you're having a good time, it's easier to stand back up. Like if you know that you're supposed to be enjoying this and you're doing this because you enjoy it and because it's a good job and because it's helpful, then you're going to keep trying because you're going to want and really, really want to do well. And then I think this is the main one. You're going through life and it's always better to enjoy life. Like this is your day-to-day. Don't let future you have all the fun. Like don't think all the time like, okay, I'm going to enjoy next year or whatever. Try to enjoy a bit now. This helps with everything, but also the reason, at least why I do most of the stuff I do, is because I'm trying to enjoy myself and I'm trying to have fun and I'm trying to like do stuff that I like. And I think that makes that realization make my life much better. I'm not as good as following it as I would love to, but I took this weekend like from Thursday to Sunday off work and I'm feeling much better. And the next few weeks I still have to finish all my work. But just try to enjoy life. So I think that's everything I have. I'm happy to answer questions. I don't know if this is like how this works, if the questions are now or later. But yeah. Maria, am I alone?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Hey.
Oh God. Hey, Emmanuel. Thank you so much. So everyone, let's say thank you to Emmanuel. Yeah, let's say thank you. And okay, please, let's say thank you. Okay, and we will give Emmanuel around 10 minutes for a break. And then all the parents and the students, if you have any question, please press your question in Q&A and yeah, in Q&A or in the chatting. I really hope everyone can see thank you. Then after that, we can press the questions. I think that one will be much better. And let's first say thank you to Emmanuel, and then we ask questions. Let's do that way. Let's do that way. And I think now everyone is the sample for our kids. So please, let's say thank you first, and then we ask questions. Please, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So Emmanuel, you take a break around 5 to 10 minutes. You drink some water, and then you will back. And the mic will help you for the questions. And you can pick up 3 questions. It's a common question to answer for that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'll try to get some water.
Okay, you drink some water. Have a good rest, and then you just back, and then we will keep on going for the Q&A session. 好的，那各位直播间的家长们，大家好啊！我们给 Emmanuel 一点时间休息一下。那我们现在是 Q&A 啊，回答问题的时间。大家可以把您的问题在 Q&A 里边问一下啊，在 chat 里问一下。但是我刚才讲啊，这个。希望大家呢，这个能够先说一句 Thank you, Emmanuel， 然后我们再问问题啊。我觉得这个是比较好的一点。我自己也是疼妈，我觉得作为家长给孩子的榜样作用其实更重要啊。好吧，我希望大伙儿能够说一句感谢，然后我们再问问题啊。谢谢 Jennifer 啊，谢谢这个我们说感谢的朋友们。好，那我在这里呢有一个特别好的消息跟大家分享一下，就是我们呢。这个今天给大家开放5个免费1对1咨询的机会啊，那我们怎么样来拿到这5个免费1对1咨询的机会呢？刚才我最开始的时候呢，已经跟大家讲了，就是我们有非常多的这个以往的这种哈佛啊、麻省啊这些藤校的主讲嘉宾们，他们都可以给大伙呢有一个半小时的免费咨询的机会，当然我们是不费用的，但是呢，这个为了帮助更多的家长能够更好的了解孩子的情况，我们开放5个名额。那这5个名额呢，我希望开放给7年级以上的孩子，所以大家可以呢拿起手机来。首先扫一下屏幕右边的2维码，这是一个腾讯问卷，请大家呢可以呢如实的填写一下孩子的成绩啊各方面啊。那我们填完了以后呢，请加我们大腾教育的小助手啊，然后说呢，我已经呢这个填写了，请留一个就是1对1咨询的机会给我啊。另外呢，大家可以敲一个1啊。RAYE 啊，这个我看到你问了2个问题了已经啊，没问题，您可以填一下腾讯问卷啊，您可以填写一下腾讯问卷，然后大家可以填写一下腾讯问卷，那这是第一件好消息啊。第二个好消息呢，这个从头到尾我还没有给大伙介绍过大腾教育，我给大伙主办了这么多公益分享啊，那大腾教育到底是干什么的呢？那我们给大家做的服务就是可复制的腾学求学路径，帮助学生提升4项硬技能和6项软技能啊。那把关每一步申请计划，助力成就藤校的梦想。那我们一共呢是在海外有多伦多、温哥华、波士顿、伦敦啊，在中国上海、深圳呢、成都、杭州我们都有。另外我们有个大腾教育基金会和徐悲鸿艺术基金会、戴泽艺术基金会都是合作的关系啊，为家庭困难的孩子提供一些呢这个经济的帮助。那再另外一点呢，那我们到底怎样来进行我们的规划时间路线呢？我们从3年级开始，GIFT 小孩要申请 GIFT， 我们就会有辅导。然后小升初呢，5年级开始进行小 SET 的辅导。然后那我们呢，因为7年级基本上你去多大附中，你去这个基本上 Harvard Girl 啊，或者是 UCC 啊就已经定了嘛。那7到8年级是藤校备跑啊，就是你呢先有个预热，就和体育竞赛之前啊，先进入状态。9、10、11这3年是最重要的，因为这3年呢，我们做的每件事情都将在12年级的 application 当中体现啊，完成我刚才讲的4项硬技能、6项软技能啊，这个10项全能。那我们到了12年级，基本上做不了什么具体的事情了，因为我们在10月份就要完成了早录 early 的申请 EA 或者 ED 的申请。那我们呢，在12月份的时候就要完成所有的 regular 的申请啊。一般来讲，我们是帮助大家进行8所名校的申请啊。那这8所名校呢，我们按照田忌赛马的方式啊，给大家呢，比如说好的一流的大学，比如说哈佛啊，这个哈耶普斯马这5所，我们选2所。那我们中等的呢，中等的，比如说康奈尔啊、UPenn 呢，我们再选3所。最后呢，我们保底的选3所，比如说你可以纽约大学啊，然后都是可以的，好吧？那这个呢，我们呢，这个会具体的给大伙来进行一下1对1的一个介绍。那我们4项硬技能到底包含什么呢？就是校内成绩啊，90分以上 GPA、SAT 成绩、AP 成绩、学术竞赛啊。我最喜欢的这个就是我们中国传统文化当中呢，那个曾国藩家书当中有一句话叫结硬宅打呆仗啊，结硬宅就是这4项硬技能，就是说你呢说什么都没用，你这实实在在的4项的成绩必须要好。那6项软技能呢，就是包含暑假 summer 你 school 你做什么，当然呢这个 club 啊你做什么，另外呢音乐体育特长做什么。 所以为什么呢？我们在音乐、体育方面呢？音乐我们这个像我们有自己的维多利亚音乐学院，体育呢我们有荣耀击剑馆啊，目的就是为了给大家呢这个用最简单的方式把这一项给填补上。然后社区义工 volunteer 啊，另外 research 成绩、发明创造力成绩，这都是非常难的，基本上高中生自己很难达到。那我们找到了一条捷径，就是呢给大家呢写论文，然后在国际上期刊上发表，那你就 research 发明创造，看起来很漂亮了啊。所以这是我们10项呢，就是我们缺什么补什么，就是10项呢10维空间给大家填补上。那我们模拟一下啊，就是文商类，如果这个孩子说我想去读经济啊，这个经济就像 manual 的就是经济嘛。那我们文商类呢，我们是怎样来给大伙做的呢？首先我们要跟这个家长和孩子一起开会啊，大家选择出来。那我到底呢是文商类哪一些专业？我是要读 accounting 还是读 econ 啊？经济类的还是 finance 啊等等？那有这么多文商类的专业啊。那我们这些专业当中，哪一所大学更最好？就是说北美这边非常好的一点呢，它不是说哎这个大学呢所有专业都是最好的，而是不同的专业有不同的好的大学啊。比如说你要读法律，那哥伦比亚大学肯定和这个哈法啊，这个哈佛法学院这都是非常好的啊。那我们选好之后呢，我们知其然还要知其所以然。那将来这个孩子毕业以后，他能去做什么？比如说经济啊，我就知道我女儿她会去做经济学家、数据分析师，然后呢，等等等等都是可以的。那我们怎么做呢？那我们呢是有一个啊，我们是有一个，为什么仍然显示不出来啊？我们是有一个时间轴啊。这个时间轴呢，就是从9年级的9月份，然后给大家呢全部啊，就是每一个月做什么，全部给大家行军路线图拉出来啊。然后我们再接着呢，就是给大家看到什么呢？看到的就是你看，我们已经具体细化到什么程度？比如说这个我们的导师会给我们的学生啊，这个来定出来1月份有什么赛事，2月份有什么赛事，3月份、4月份，这些都是学生个人呢很难做到的，很难达到的。那我们呢都已经帮助我们的学生啊，这个把这些通通的找出来，给学生节省大量的时间，而且正确的行军路线图。那我们成功案例呢，这是我们在今年 early 和这个正式录取的啊，有哈佛的，有麻省的，有耶鲁的、普林斯顿的，还有伯克利的啊，这些大学全部都是我们成功的案例。所以，亲爱的小伙伴们，我希望大伙呢，对于这个就是大同教育啊，有一个呢比较这个就是浅显的这个全面的一个了解，好吧？好，那我看一下呢，这个我可以把时间呢交给Manu 啊，这个看一下那个看一下呢，就是大伙还有什么问题？走我把这个放在这儿啊，大家刚才说太快了，校长，我没有扫上这个二维码，现在可以慢慢扫一下。这个 Hey Emmanuel, I give you the time for the Q&A session. There are some questions in Q&A and some questions in chatting, so you can pick up the top 3 you think is very popular questions, the same questions, and you can answer them and give all the audience some directions. Thank you.
No, thank you. Sorry, this laptop doing its best. No, thank you. Thanks a lot. And thanks everyone. So before starting to answer questions, the IMO is International Math Olympiad. Sorry, I didn't specify that. Then I think the main question I got was, how did I get the offer to do Harvard research? Basically, you apply. Usually you apply to a lot of different places. These positions are called predoctoral fellowships. And the word fellowship usually, but not always, indicates that you're being paid. So yes, I got money as a former college student in Uruguay with literally no savings. It was enough money to rent a place, pay for all my food, pay for my flights back home once or twice a year, and pay for some traveling. So you are not rich with these kind of jobs, and you're making much less money than if you went into finance or like consulting or just a tech job right after college. But it's enough money to survive and like have a pretty good life. And then how it works, you apply and you try to get an offer. Basically, the process is you apply to places. It's similar to college application, but like in that sense, And then you get very few offers back, and you have to decide among the offers you have for the job that is closest to your field. I had nobody helping me or teaching me how to do this. I basically applied because I found these jobs existed while reading Twitter in class. So I just looked around in the internet and tried to find out what it was. In economics, is a bunch of lists that lists them all of the jobs. One of it's like by the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBER, and they have it on their websites. So yeah, so this is how I did this job. What else? So yeah, so I think this is the main question in a lot of different ways. I cannot speak about IB scores versus AP scores. In Uruguay, you cannot take APs, and I took the AP. I didn't get a great score in the AP either. For those of you who are familiar, I got 34 out of 45, which is decent, but not the best. And so, yeah. If you want to do economic research, you have to know math. There's this class called Real Analysis. And if you take a class that has Real Analysis as a name, and uses this book called David Rudin, like Rudin's book of the typical book, which is written by a guy named Rudin, then that class is enough. That's everything you need to know and everything to show that you know math when you're applying for an ECOM PhD program. If you can take that class while in college, take it, do whatever it takes to get an A, and then you can prove that you know enough math. It's not a necessary requirement. It is a sufficient requirement, but it is mostly necessary. I have friends who got Bs and still got into Harvard. I have friends who didn't take the class and still managed to do it. If you get a good recommendation letter, then it should be fine. If you have no idea on how to do economic research, the best way to approach it is to talk to a professor and try to do some research work for them. Once you start working, you can move a bit around and try to go to the fields you like the more. And then you can either talk to them and see if their letters are enough to get into a good grad program, or you should apply to one of these research assistant positions. They will know much better how to do it. In the case of Opportunity Insights, they send recruiting emails every year before every season, before every application season, which are once in September, one in April, I guess. The April one doesn't always work out. Sometimes they are just no offers. So the September one is better. But yeah, but that depends by field. Like in economics, it's like that. I'm very happy to like answer any questions about specific economics if somebody wants to write me an email. I don't know if you have my email, but happy to share that. I don't know if this is a watch. What is the most important? For me to get into Harvard, the most important thing was luck. After saying luck, I think that being able to show that I knew how to do research and that I had these projects that I worked for in Uruguay that worked out pretty well, and my professor was willing to say that I did a decent chunk of the job. I think that was very important. I don't have no idea how much you're supposed to spend in Harvard for tuition, because PhD programs don't, like, you are not charged tuition. You're actually paid to study. But to live, usually rent is like between 900 and 1,400 per month, and then living is groceries at the same price. And how to build a good math foundation for economic research. I think I already talked a bit about this. Basically, taking the class of like the Rudin class, then you don't need that much math to do good research. It depends a lot on the field. If you're doing economic theory, which is a lot of equations, then yes, you need a good math foundation. And much more than a good math foundation, you need a good math intuition. Like, you need to be good at doing math and knowing how to do it. it is not my best ability. So that's why I'm not doing that field. But there are other fields that you need to be able to use math. It's not the main intuition that you need to solve an equation. And then if you take a bit longer, it's fine, which is what happens to me. And you should just ask friends. So you need to know enough math to convince the program that you're not going to be a burden on the math side and you're going to be able to do your classes. And that's this class called real analysis. So if you have a real analysis class, then you should be fine. Like just get a good grade in that class. Usually when you apply to PhD programs, they ask you specifically about math classes, but they mean this class, and you have to tell them what's the name of the course, which was your grade, which book you used, and maybe something about the topics, but usually those 3 things. And then it should be real analysis, this reading book, and then an A would be ideal. So with that, even if you have to retake the class 2 or 3 times, and you take like the second version, the third version, which are easier, like the harder versions or the more advanced, you just get an A in one of them, and that's fine. Like nobody's going to go checking that deep into the transcript to know in which one you got an A. Just tell them the hardest one, and show them an A, and they'll be happy. So I think that those are most of the questions. I'm probably missing something. I'm really sorry, but thanks everyone.
I think that's all. I think that's all the questions. And so, okay. So thank you so much, Emmanuel. You have a great night. Looking forward to meet with you very soon. Maybe, I think, not sure, July. I will be in Boston to visit.
Oh, okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm in DC right now, but I'm going back to Boston, and then I'm leaving mid-June, but coming back in July. So hopefully I can see you there. Okay,
great. So you are in DC, right?
Yeah, right now I'm in DC, which is I forgot to pack a lot of stuff, but yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow. Came here to visit some friends from the program, and like de-stress a bit. Okay.
Great. Yes. And anytime if you want to fly to Toronto, just let me know. And yeah,
might be there in a month. So we'll let you know.
Yeah, please let me know. And there are tons of awesome Chinese restaurants. And
I want to experience some of them. They're really good.
Yes. For sure, I will bring you to try all of them. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot. See you. And thanks everyone. It was great. Best of luck to everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. 好的，那我们各位直播间的小伙伴们，各位家长们啊，下面我最后有一个10分钟给我们的家长来分享一下啊。作为这个哈佛腾妈啊，怎样培养优秀的孩子，怎样让孩子爱上学习啊？谢谢大家啊！刚才我觉得 Emmanuel 啊，这个给了那个非常好的一些建议啊。那我自己呢，实际上在培养孩子过程当中，还是非常有心得和体会。这是我女儿的经历啊 ，Ruby。Emmanuel 实际上是她最好的朋友之一了，应该这样讲啊。这个那所有的这些重要的主讲嘉宾都是她的好朋友，都是她中学或者大学或者是她博士的同学啊。她中学呢就是多伦多大学附属中学，就是 UTS 啊，著名的在多伦多这边。然后他在升大学的时候获得多所藤校 offer， 最后我们选择了芝加哥大学。他在芝加哥大学是经济数学统计啊，布斯商学院4年读4个专业，接近满分，拿到了1890年成立的芝加哥大学啊，3个最高荣誉大奖毕业。2019年呢是哈佛直读博士前，2021年呢是哈佛大学全奖的博士生。他跟 Emmanuel 呢会在哈佛大学共同度过同样的8年时间，他俩又是哈佛博士前的同学，又是哈佛经济博士生的同学啊，所以友谊非常深厚啊。那我其实想跟女儿就是说想跟大伙分享的呢，可能和大伙想象的不一样啊。我是希望呢给大伙来分享一下，就是其实每一个孩子的成功呢都有他不同的路径。刚才 Emmanuel 讲的也给我带来了非常全新的一种感受，就因为他呢是我唯一的听到了一个啊，我们有这么多学生讲啊，就是说他在 summer 他没有做过任何 I did nothing， 他说啊，我觉得首先我觉得他特别实在，特别好的一个孩子啊。那另外一点呢，就很少有人会就是真的是什么都没做，但是他还是很厉害啊。那女儿呢，这个我觉得特别值得提的一点是什么呢？ 他在大学2年级的暑假呢，女儿呢就放弃了投行优厚的工作，他在美国呢是采访难民和寻求庇护者，做数据分析，帮助社会中的弱者。就是我希望他的经历让大伙儿能够知道，藤校最喜欢的一类孩子是什么样子的，是有这种社会责任感，是有一份呢这个抱负啊，而且他的梦想是和让这个社会变得这个世界变得更加美好结合在一起的。我希望这些呢可以给我们的孩子在写他的 essay 的时候一些启发啊。当然，女儿呢她的成长经历呢，应该说呢比较坎坷，实际上。因为他在上9年级的时候呢，我先生发现得了癌症，后来呢，他大学2年级的时候呢，父亲就去世了。那所以呢，他呢，相当于在这个他的整个大学2年级、3年级啊，包括大4，然后包括读博士期间呢，都是自己就是非常的奋发图强。那他呢，实际上为什么他大2能够做这么一件有意义的事情呢？就是他父亲一直跟他讲说，你一定呢要用你所学的知识，能够呢去帮助弱者。所以呢，他才做了这件事情。大3的时候呢，他就跟着教授开始做研究。其实女儿基本上她上了大学之后就没有再跟我要任何这种生活费，她一直是在大学里啊做帮助教授呢做不同的 research， 然后她就荣获了 Phi Beta 全美历史最悠久的社会学学术荣誉大奖，同时在斯坦福大学本科的经济杂志上发表论文啊。那最后呢，他就是我特别骄傲和自豪，就大学4年级的时候呢，他毕业典礼，当时呢，就是所有的小伙伴们都站起来啊，他同学给他欢呼，就是他能够做到4年啊，因为是4分满分嘛，他这4个专业他是全部都是3.92、3.97啊，毕业基本上接近满分，所以呢，他就这个拿到了哈佛大学、麻省、耶鲁、普林斯顿、伯克利全奖的博士 offer， 是有原因的啊。这是女儿的一个成长经历。那我非常高兴的就是她在去年8月份在哈佛做博士前参研的2篇论文啊，在自然杂志上发表了。我觉得这对年轻人来讲呢是非常非常有价值的，因为其实在学术，尤其在大学申请的时候呢，学术论文的发表是非常非常被看重的一件事情。女儿她是非常谦虚低调的一个孩子啊。然后，但是呢，他就那一次回来，专门就给我带了2样啊，一件呢就是他跑半马的马拉松的这个纪念这个牌子，另外一个呢就是这个自然杂志，然后他发表自然杂志那2篇论文，他带回来，就可见呢这件事情在他心目中的一个地位多么重要啊！所以我希望呢，就是跟大家分享一句话。就是永远不放弃，永远前行，是我们呢每一个，尤其是年轻人，他也至暗时刻的精神力量和内驱力。那我们作为家长，我们要做什么呢？我们就要培养孩子这种呢精神力量和内驱力，这是非常重要的一件事情。所以呢，那我在这里呢，用最简单的时间和话语来告诉大家啊，怎样让孩子爱上学习。以女儿成长经历，首先帮助她建立自信。而且在他呢弱的那个方向建立自信。女儿呢，她不是特别擅长做 public speaking 啊，然后所以呢，这个就是我一直很刻意的想办法能够帮她在这方面建立自信。后来10年级呢有一个机会，就是 DECA， 就是中学生商业演讲比赛。然后呢，我就鼓励他参加，并且呢，真的是花了大量的时间和精力，然后和女儿一起来练习。然后我们也真的，我们一定要让专业的人让专业的事情来做啊，专业的事情。那我们呢也请了这方面的专业老师给女儿做一些非常好的培养啊，然后呢培训啊等等。那后来女儿呢，DECA是获得了整个加拿大的第1名，并且代表呢加拿大到美国参加 international 竞赛，获得了 international 的第2名。他在刚刚过去的5月13号，在温哥华，他正好过去探望我啊。我在温哥华呢，我们搞那个地产嘉年华，然后我说，那你既然都来了，给大伙做一场线下的讲座啊。他就在线下做了一场的纯公益的分享，然后结果就是获得了热烈的掌声啊，我还挺骄傲的。我觉得他的 presentation 做得非常的棒，而且今年下半年呢，他在哈佛呢将给哈佛经济学的本科生啊，将开始进行 TA 就上课啊。那我觉得呢，他应该很有自信，做一个非常好的一个老师。那这也是他10年级打下的基础啊。那这是第一个问题。第二个问题就是兴趣是最好的老师。这里边也有一个故事啊，很多家长一直说，哎，我的孩子这个中文啊，这个哎呀，这个好像不好。这个其实呢，我觉得这都是家长的问题。女儿呢，我这次过母亲节不是在 这个温哥华过的，他专门飞过去陪我过母亲节啊。其实我在想，我特别希望他在多伦多也做一场线下的分享，他还从来没有做过啊。如果圣诞节他回来，我会问一下他愿不愿意分享一次。我也希望多伦多的朋友们可以呢，这个也可以面对面的受益啊。那个当时他就是用中文给我写的这个贺卡。实际上呢，这个他的中文呢很流利的，听说读写呢是有原因的，那就是呢，我们从小培养他中文，因为我觉得传统文化比什么都重要。我们怎么培养他呢？就是他爸爸啊，他父亲呢做到什么程度？我们把全套的金庸全集全部用汉语拼音给这个标注出来。我相信不是有很多家长做到这一点啊。那孩子呢，他就有故事情节，他就喜欢，我们都喜欢看武打小说，对吧？那他就特别希望说，哎，我想知道小龙女和杨过最后有没有重逢啊？这个等到他读完了这个叫做人性最复杂的啊，这个叫做天龙八部啊，然后包括呢情节最复杂的这个笑傲江湖，然后我们就给他开始来读论语啊，我说你应该来学一点论语。所以呢，这个兴趣是最好的老师，你不要硬的逼着他去啊来学习，而是要找到怎么样能够让他建立起兴趣来。我们当时真的花了大量的时间精力，就是刚才我给大伙看的那个行军路线图，其实在我们家的墙上，当时有一幅巨大的行军路线图，我们细致到每个星期，然后孩子就女儿要做什么，我们都清清楚楚的，因为她要同时10项全能全部做完，是非常不容易的一件事情啊。所以呢，如果家长没有做到这一点，那我觉得您可以考虑呢，把孩子送给我们啊，我们帮您来做这件事情。那另外一点呢，我想讲一下传统文化在家庭教育中的重要性啊。对，我个人的二维码，有人问啊，整个这个屏幕的左边的这个二维码是我个人的二维码啊，因为这块我会讲的很简单，但是其实我有大量的内容呢，我写过2篇文章，一篇是写呢母亲就是如何负责孩子的人格力量培养，然后父亲负责呢纪律的养成和智力的开发。那大伙呢可以加我啊，在整个屏幕的左边回复文章，因为呢青少年这块教育我非常有兴趣啊，我就期望在他们身上，然后我可以把这些文章发给大家啊。那传统文化在家庭教育中的重要性，左传啊节俭，你看节俭，我把女儿这张照片放这是因为呢这件大衣呢是9年级他爸爸给他买的。现在已经过去了12年的时间了，差不多。然后女儿依然在穿这件大衣，圣诞节回来，因为呢，她觉得就是我认为啊，当一个年轻人把他的注意力从物质的享受，然后放眼于精神的追求，他才会能够做到呢，真正发挥他的潜能。然后另外一点呢，就是处处感恩，心怀感恩，处处皆善。当时呢，我们特别尤其他父亲啊，注意培养女儿呢，读了很多历史的书籍，读了很多呢这种宇宙方面的书籍。很多女孩子可能呢这方面不一定特别愿意去读啊，但是你只有呢把这个孩子让他具备了历史的观念，然后呢宇宙的视野，他才会呢知道说我这一点点成就真的不算什么。当他有感恩的心的时候呢，他才有可能真正的就是做到更高，飞得更高，然后走得更远。所以这也是我推荐大家。另外呢，就是我刚才推荐的啊，接硬宅打呆仗，就是刚才讲到10项全能。其实大家不要到处找啊，学东学西学了一堆啊，其实就这4项硬技能，6项软技能，大家去踏踏实实做好就可以了。好，那这是我跟大伙分享的。这个很多朋友说，哎，校长，我记得你是做维多利亚教育集团的啊，在这边讲一句。那是这样子的，我做了24年啊，都是针对成年人的最实用的教育平台啊。我们周一到周日加更晚8点都会有职场135是职场免费小灶课，然后246是地产啊，还有投资创业，都是这个号816853400181。我为什么在2017年开始做大藤教育啊，然后开始做呢青少年方面相关的原因非常简单，我认为我们这一代人呢，我们只有一个职责，那就是呢君子好财取之有道，多赚钱，找一份好工作，然后呢地产也好，金融投资也好，多赚钱。因为呢教育是需要投资的，只有呢赚更多的钱，才能让我们孩子接受更好的教育，才能够改变我们整个阶层啊。那大同教育呢，就是每个月最后一个周日加更晚8点啊，我们会有呢全世界前20所大学的学霸来给大伙有一个分享啊。像 Emmanuel 最开始的时候就给大伙看到了，同样这个Zoom ID希望大伙可以记下来。另外呢就是击剑，如果大家呢没有找到一个正确的运动的 方式的话啊，某一项体育运动的话，我推荐呢运动中的巴黎啊，为名校申请加分，这个还是非常重要的，可以加我们击剑的小助手啊，了解更多，包括夏令营啊等等啊。所以，亲爱的家长们，那我最后的5分钟在这里给大家送一点干货。作为家长，做好准备了吗？每个孩子的成功是被设计出来的，教育是改变阶层固化的唯一方法，父母是孩子的起点。希望呢，这个家长能够记住这一点啊。那我们呢，这个父母做到哪3点呢？最平凡、最普通的父母也能够培养出最懂事、最上进、最优秀的孩子啊。这个第一，充分发掘孩子的潜力。这是第一点啊。那这个潜能呢，是要有一点困难，不是说哎呀我不舍得孩子受苦啊，不舍得孩子这个要那么累啊，这是2回事了啊。因为你只有送给孩子最好的礼物，让他开心，他快乐的源泉在于呢，他挖掘出自己的自身潜能。就像我做教育24年，1周7天，每天工作14个小时，从来没有休息过。我快乐的源泉就是我认为教育能够最大程度的发挥我的潜能啊，所以在孩子身上也是一样的。另外呢，人生必须要有目标，那这个目标呢是应该一个上坡路的目标，要能够呢这个体现孩子的努力的一个目标啊。再另外呢，就是必须具备的素质，永远把教育放在第一位。我们的认知、我们的学识、我们的时间、我们的投入，有没有做到把教育放在第一位？其实这是最关键的。我知道很多家长呢创业也赚了很多钱，但是非常的繁忙。那我还是想告诉大家一件事情啊，就是我们的孩子属于明天，属于我们做梦也没有办法达到的明天。那我们作为家长，我们付出这么多努力，就是要给他插上腾飞的翅膀，让他在梦想的天空中能够去翱翔。所以希望啊，家长有2份遗产留给我们的孩子，一份是根，一份是翅膀。根是面对困境的信念，翅膀是适应困境的能力啊。这全部都是我们大腾的导师，然后曾经在维多利亚做过讲座的啊，在我们大腾教育做过讲座 ，Jenny 哥伦比亚法学院的啊。然后呢，这个朱莉亚啊，同时拿到 MBA 和这个芝加哥大学布斯商学院的 MBA 和这个医学院的朱莉亚啊。然后再另外呢，就是我希望啊，这个刚才我已经提到这件事情，其实没有任何一项事业，我自己在过去24年得了非常多的奖项，但跟大伙儿说实话，所有的奖项带给我的这种呢喜悦，都不如女儿拿到了哈佛录取通知书那一刻的喜悦来的更加的真实和真正的巨大。所以呢，我希望啊，这个没有任何一项事业比培养优秀的孩子、构建幸福的家庭更伟大。希望呢，有一个电影嘛，叫做《守望的麦田》嘛，每个孩子都在父母守望的麦田里长得金黄又饱满，结出最甜美的果实啊。这个，所以亲爱的家长们，如果呢您不知道啊如何规划孩子的未来，徘徊在山脚下，我们会帮您孩子走到山腰，看得更远。如果孩子在山腰了呢，那我们呢愿意帮助您走到山顶啊，来鸟瞰整个世界啊。好的，那最后呢，再一次把这个机会给大家，就是我们呢可以敲1啊，就是可以敲1啊，这个来拿这个扫2维码，这个预约，我们开放5个名额，跟我们的大腾博士生有一个预约啊。我预告一下我们后续呢，我们在6月4号下个周日晚上8点钟，请到了 Tina， 她自己本身是北大毕业啊，德国的博士生。那她呢，这个女儿是连续3年加拿大击剑冠军，11年级获得西北大学早录 offer。她会呢来讲如何让孩子爱上运动，到底呢这个如何选择适合孩子的运动，什么运动项目对升学有帮助，非常值得一听的一个讲座，大家可以扫2维码啊。另外呢，年终特别奉献3个哈佛腾妈一台戏，6月25号周日啊，晚8点，我们6月份有2场成效讲座啊，这个重磅哈佛腾妈，然后来给大伙分享一下孩子成长之路。然后7月份这场讲座极力推荐，千万不要错过啊！我可能只能请他这一次了，他9月份就要到哈佛去读书了，我估计我很难把他请到了。就是我们的安童啊，他是刚刚啊，这个获得了哈佛大学经济数学的早录生，然后并且呢，加拿大这边呢，他是拿到了所有的 offer， 这些大学获得30万加币的奖学金啊。 他讲的非常非常的好，所以我推荐啊不要错过。好的，那各位直播间的家长们，感谢大家的聆听啊。那我也呢这个在盼望啊，如果有机会的话呢，可以大家能够再一次呢，就是跟我们的这些藤校啊这个顾问进行一些互动。那我最后呢，刚才有家长问到啊，说校长，那您那个就是已经提到了有关共学营的这么多讲座啊，那希望呢有没有可能分享一下我们下周的共学营的针对成年人的一些讲座题目啊？那我呢可以给大家分享一下。然后另外一点呢，这个我今天的这个共学营的晚安音乐，想把呢这个就是一首不一样的音乐送给大家，因为呢我们实际上呢是在这个音乐呢是在 Ruby 在他父亲去世4周年的时候呢，然后我们俩做了一个分享，当时3个小时，后来呢麦克老师然后专门呢这个做了一个我们的音乐学院的 Amanda 老师给我们专门做了一个这个就是小提琴演奏曲，吉他演奏曲非常非常的动听，希望大家可以听一下啊。那我们呢周一到周日加东晚8点 Zoom ID 8168534011我们的共学营，然后有创业万花筒、职场小造课、投资财富通、自我提升、地产大咖谈。那我们明天晚上周一晚上8点钟，然后我们是Jenny 明明可以靠颜值吃饭，但是呢新移民2娃宝妈，然后商科完美转行数据，拿到医药和零售2个高薪 offer， 他是怎么做到的呢？我们一个呢特别的经验分享。那我们接着呢周二晚上是我们的Bill 老师来讲高净值多单位公寓的投资，是我们的一场地产讲座。周三晚上面试女神木兰老师的课特别受欢迎，因为今年找工作真的不容易，尤其是刚毕业的大学生。那今年求职必须知道的新方法。那我们周四晚上呢是有个创业讲座，是连锁店3大秘诀这个 Sam 老师呢，这个也是他是舒立克的 MBA， 讲的非常非常棒每一场讲座主讲人都是我们千锤百炼挑出来的，值得一听。周五晚上 Tableau 免费送课这是一个数据可视化的全新工具，我们的青年才俊，我们的朱子玉老师给大伙带来这样一场讲座。然后我们周六晚上是我们的这个 Jeff 沈老师来给大伙讲的大数据、人工智能、深度学习、快速就业、高薪就业给大伙带来一个全新的讲座。那我们在周日晚上就是击剑如何让孩子爱上运动，是大藤和击剑结合的一场讲座好的，再一次感谢大家的聆听，这是我们下周六的安排，这是我们下周日的安排那我们呢也把时间呢交给我们今晚的 coordinator 我们的 Adam 给大伙放一下我们的晚安音乐。这是维多利亚教育集团的微信公众号，我们的 YouTube 频道，我们的小红书账号，我们的官方视频号，大家也都可以扫码关注一下，好吗？那我请达姆放一下晚安音乐，再一次感谢大家今晚的聆听谢谢大家。那我们这个一起迎接美好的未来，谢谢。 you.